you need YouTube and Facebook? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of Behind the Music. This is the fifth episode of Behind the Music with Elia. I'm your host, Elia. So, this show has been going on for 5 months now, and it wouldn't be successful without the team at Dubai Media City. In my previous episodes, I hosted legends from the music industry where we talked about how you can generate income from your lyrics and how you can reach curators that could take your songs to another level, and of course, how to release your music and monetize on your catalogs. And not to forget the production career that we went through with one of the biggest engineers in the world. Before I start this episode, I would like to remind you that Dubai Media City is currently the region's largest business district for content creation and media industries, alongside Dubai Production City and Dubai Studio City. The three pillars create the UAE's media ecosystem and hosts more than 3,000 companies and 34,000 professionals. Coming back to Behind the Music, the aim of this new initiative, well, it's not new anymore, but it's an initiative. The reason behind it is to empower and inspire talented artists and musicians across the region by providing the secret tips and tricks that have helped music industry pros crack the code to a successful career in the creative industry. That being said, before I talk about my guest, please do like, share, comment, subscribe. The show is being streamed on Facebook and YouTube, so you can subscribe, you can share, you can do whatever you want to do with it. Everybody's leaving every episode with a bag full of knowledge. My guest for today is an award-winning entrepreneur, educator, music industry and social media specialist, musician, author, and YouTuber. He has been a major influencer on a lot of artists around the world, and I personally learned so much from him over the years. Being one of my idols and giving me the honor to have him on my show, please welcome Damian Keyes. Hi, Damian.
Well, thank you so much. That's amazing. Great to be here.
Same here, man. It's really pleasure and honor to have you. I've been watching your YouTube channel since you started the channel. I learned so much from you, and honestly, I'm still learning every day. You post something, whether on YouTube, whether on Instagram, it has been a roller coaster, and a good kind of roller coaster. So thank you. Thank you for giving us free knowledge, basically. So, Damian, before I start, last time we spoke, you told me you moved to LA, if I'm not mistaken?
Nashville. I'm in Nashville at the moment, currently. So from the UK, but been here about 3 weeks. And the thing that we noticed the most is it's sunny. And everyone who's over in the UK is going, sunny. Because it's mostly grey in the UK, so it's nice to have some sun.
Yeah, of course. I was in the UK a few years back, and for a short period, and I couldn't take the grey weather, to be honest. But yeah, I get you.
Yep.
Wait till you come to Dubai, and then we'll have this discussion about this.
Can't wait. I can't wait.
Amazing. So, Damian, a lot of people here in the region, when I launched the poster, they asked me, how did he start it, and how did he start, and what was your biggest opportunity? What was your first opportunity, actually?
I mean, it's a great question. So I actually come from Wales, which is a country in the UK next to England, probably seen as the poor relation in regarding the countries around the UK. Come from a city called Swansea, and growing up, I was terrible at school. I failed my high school, and my mum made me resit the entire year.
Wow.
Of which I failed it a second time.
Wow.
And at that point, so at that point I was like, well, I'm obviously not going to be a lawyer, but I'd started to play bass, and I'd loved just being in bands and playing bass. So I told my mum it was going to be fine. I was going to be a rock star. And I went to a local college to basically learn how to play bass better. And I joined the band as everyone does at the age of 16, 17. Band started to do quite well. And then over a period of time, started to build a bit of an audience. Now, this was in the 90s, so it's very different. There's no social media. We basically played gigs. And then labels started to sniff around. We got signed to a small independent record label who did a one single deal, which basically meant they put us in the studio for one song. We recorded one song. put it onto some CDs, sold it to all our friends and people that we knew. And because of that, we started to get some attention from the major labels. And we had to go to London, do a bunch of showcases. We got signed, got a major record deal. And at which point, that's the point where all major label, or most artists think, when you get a major label deal, that's it, sorted. And I did too. I was 18. I was like, that's it. I've got the major label. We're going to be rich. We're going to be famous. Everyone's going to know who we are. The problem was, what we weren't told is lots of people get signed to major labels, and we basically got shelved. And at which point, sort of 9 months later, we put a record out. Nobody bought it apart from my mum, who was very nice. Wow. And then at that point, we got dropped off the label, and I was 19 years old. And I was thinking, well, what happens? What do we do? No one explains what to do in the music industry. They just say, yeah, make some music and good luck. And there's no rules. There's no manual. There's no instruction manual. So at which point I just thought, I've got to go and figure this out. So I left Swansea. I went to near London to a music college, met some inspirational people. And I guess that the opportunity was probably, for me, was leaving the city that I lived, moving to a place and meeting other inspirational people, and started. But the interesting thing was, I think the romantic, sexy, sort of nice answer would be more of this kind of, would be more of a kind of a one-off opportunity, something that just, I did this thing and it just happened. And the reality was, I just did 1,000 gigs, and the small gigs turned into bigger gigs, which turned into better gigs, which meant meeting more people. And whilst they were probably sliding door opportunities, there wasn't one thing that was like, and then I did this gig and everything happened, or I put this song out and all of a sudden I was #1 in the chart. Wow. It was just a lot of slog, a lot of hard work.
Nice. Well, I hope some of my artists are not watching this, because some of them, they were discussing getting signed to a record label. So this is I'm gonna have a discussion tomorrow with each one of them. But yeah, I don't know. When was that, by the way? Which year are we talking about?
That was 1996. So wow, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was in the midst of like labels getting control over like music and.
Yeah, and back then it was gatekeepers. Back then you had to be accepted. You had to be accepted by a label who would put the money. But if you think about it, so back then I remember we got put into this studio, and the studio was like called Rockville Studio. It's like a really amazing studio. And like the producer, I was sat there and I was sat on this piano, can't play piano, but I sat there, and the producer turned around and said, oh, that's the piano that Freddie Mercury recorded Bohemian Rhapsody on.
Wow.
And I was like, no way, that's amazing. And he was like, yeah, that's like a piece of history sort of thing. And so, but back then a studio would cost, $2,000, $2,500 for a day, not including a producer, an engineer, any musicians that you have to bring in. So you had to have a label, because there weren't many people that could just afford thousands a day. And then it's like, well, we've got to get a CD printed to like 10,000 or 100,000 or 1 million CDs. And then we've got to have the network of each of these CDs has to get on boats and trucks, and they've got to be taken to shops. And this costs hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to actually just get one, your record into a shop. Whereas nowadays, very, very different. But back then you had to have a gatekeeper, because you had to have someone who was prepared to invest $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 into the intro of you being an artist. So, you had to have the gatekeepers, because it was an investment. Whereas nowadays, things are very different.
100%. Thank you for this. What was the name of the band, by the way, your band?
Oh, I've had many questions about that band, and it was just something I would definitely forget. So I tried not.
Yeah. Fair enough. So I won't be able to sniff around and see.
That's the problem. As soon as people start sniffing around, all those old pictures come back. I've probably got a mullet.
Cool. That's an amazing story. I'm gonna jump to more professional questions, and then we'll continue the conversation. Can you tell me about the British Institute of Modern Music that was followed by DK Music Business Academy? I believe you sold BIMM for $250 million. That's insane.
Well, I wish
I'm so intrigued.
I wish I'd got all that.
Well, yeah, of course. But I mean, yeah.
So yeah, so effectively what happened was, as a touring musician, everyone watching this who's a musician will
Right.
understand
Yeah.
that you get what I call CV moments. Everyone goes, "Oh, you did this, you played for this artist and you did this." But the reality is on the whole, those are kind of the top end moments, and most of your career is still playing gigs and touring and tour buses and transit vans and all those other things that you do when you're an artist. And you get the highs and lows, the peaks and troughs,
Yeah.
the roller coaster. And I went to music college, and they asked me to stay on as a bass teacher, which I did for a couple of years, and I loved it. And I loved the fact that I was always obsessed with bass playing. It was like that was
Yeah.
everything. I just wanted to play bass all day. I didn't care about the music industry or the technicalities. I was just like, give me the bass and give me a gig. That's all I wanted. And I was gigging 5 times a week, and that was my life. I loved it so much. And so the dealing with musicians thing became something on a kind of daily basis. I was dealing with more and more musicians. I was dealing with their careers, and it became a huge passion for me. I was 19 when I started doing that. And then by the time I was 22, 23, the college that I was working at had got quite big.
Yeah.
But I didn't own any of it. And so myself and a friend of mine who worked there, we felt like the college had got quite big, and we were like, we could do this ourselves. We could set up our own music college and do something which is more, where we get the control. We get to basically build something. So we did. We built it, and it started off in my living room, in my dining room. We had a table, we had a computer that we got from a charity shop, and we basically started this college where we had to get a building and kit it out, and we remortgaged our houses, and just basically were gigging every day just to pay to survive. And it started where we wanted to get a couple of hundred musicians into one place that we could help them with their career. And the first year we had 180 students, and the second year I think it was 400 or 380
Wow.
students, and it just grew and grew. And then we went from Brighton, then it went to another city in the UK, and then all of a sudden there was a third city, and it was amazing. The issue for me was I definitely started to fall out of love when I wasn't dealing with the music and the art and the creatives and the musicians, and I was all of a sudden I was in board meetings and accountancy,
Yeah.
financial controlling meetings. And I remember just thinking, this wasn't why we set this up. We set this up to be musicians and help musicians and stuff. And I sort of got to a point where it just got very big and very corporate, and I wanted to do something slightly more different. And so At that point, it was time to go and do something different. And so I went back to what most musicians do. I picked up my 1977 P bass and just started playing and getting and doing gigs, the usual thing. But I've always just loved this. I've loved talking to musicians. I've loved talking about music. I've loved strategizing. And so that was always the thing that came back. And then when a few years back, I remember being on tour, and a friend of mine was in social media and always saying, you need to sort your social media out. And I was like, too old for social media. And then it dawned on me that like social media this was 2016, was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I hadn't paid any attention to it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I was like, I need to learn this real fast. Otherwise I've got problems. And so I just thought, well, I'll start it by I'll just get on YouTube and figure this stuff out, get on Facebook. And it was a way for me to learn, and it just grew. And instead of meeting musicians in coffee shops, which I've always done, it was doing it on YouTube instead. And it was really fun, and it started to grow. And all of a sudden, more people were asking me about social media than they were asking me about the music industry, which was strange. And you saw this real shift of the music industry, of all these questions of talking about publishing versus masters, labels versus distribution and tours. And all of a sudden people are asking me about Snapchat and Facebook and Instagram and stories, and I was like, this is a very weird shift, that you really saw a change.
Which brings me to my next question. I have followed your videos like on YouTube and other social media and everything, and I was like, you taught me a lot, obviously. In your own words, have you found like success during the making of these free videos in terms of giving yourself a name on the social media world or internet world, and slash were you did you want to like generate income in any way at any point while doing this?
Yeah, no, that was never the plan. The plan was to figure out how it worked so that when I did the next business, because I had a management company where we managed 30 bands, and then I bought an agency which did about 8,000 events a year. And the plan was I needed to learn this for the businesses that I had.
Right.
It was never ever to actually do anything else. And then, I was a big believer in, I've always been a big believer in, personal brand. I mean, you as a musician, you are your brand. You are a personal brand.
Of course.
And so, I feel like this is the future now. The good news is you have complete control. The good news is you can make music for nothing. You can distribute it for next to nothing, if not nothing, if you want to use certain platforms. Everything is free, which is incredible. It's never been like that in the history of music. The problem is the gate is opened and everyone can do it for free. So whilst it's amazing and you have the control, the competition now is crazy because everybody's doing it and everyone can make music for nothing. And so what stands you aside, as has always been the case, because even though we have new technology, the history still repeats. And so back in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, it was always the same thing. The music comes first. And so you can, it's important to have good marketing and you have to have a way to distribute. But as an artist, you have to stand for something. When you say, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is the music that attaches to it, that's when we become a fan, as opposed to, I like a song, I like that song, as opposed to, I'm a fan of that band or I'm a fan of that artist. It's a very different thing. Yeah. And that's where they stand the test of time and they get this longevity. And that is what social media brings. It brings not just a way to communicate, it brings a way of saying, this is who I am, and people will pay attention. You're standing on your soapbox and saying, I believe in the power of music, and this is the genre I love. This is the and if you're a believer of vintage guitars and and 2-inch tape and going old school, or you might be a believer in in keyboards and programs and whatever it is, you've got the things that connect you to other artists, which is amazing. And so that's where we're at. And so the personal branding has allowed me, in doing so, just doing exactly the same as what I want everyone else to do, to come to any city in the world and have conversations with people. I was literally out last night and watching a songwriters round, and someone taps you on the shoulder and says, "Oh, I watch all your videos," and I'm 5,000 miles from home, and it's the weirdest feeling. And wherever I go in the world, I'll walk into a guitar shop or I'll walk into a gig, and somebody will go, "I think I watch your videos on YouTube." And that's what we're trying to do as artists, as creators. We're trying to get people to see our stuff. And here's the interesting thing: nowadays, getting attention is easier than it's ever been. And I think this is where artists fall down. They think they've just got to get attention. If I could just get on that stage, or if I could just get my music in front of those people, anyone can do that now. It's easy. I mean, you can tweet anybody, you can contact anybody, you can pay $5 and get your message in front of the right people. The problem is, what happens then? And what happens at that point? If I get my message out, do people say, "This is amazing, I'm in," or do they say, "Cool, swipe up"? And this fickle finger, this that we all have, that we all just go, no, and that's our life. And so, getting in front of people, it's the same thing as 18-year-old me. If I get signed to a major label, I've achieved everything, it's all sorted. And then you get signed to a major label, and you say, well, where's my Rolls Royce, and where's my money, and where's my fame, and why am I not in the charts? It's like, it's just the start of the journey. So getting in front of people is one thing, but making your content sticky, making people want to come in and follow 100%. You and be a part of it and buy from you and come on tour with you, that's harder.
You're correct, because there's a few people on YouTube that are reliable when it comes to like sharing music knowledge and talking about it. And there's questions about like, why Damian Keyes, why this, why that. For me, why I watch your videos, whether as a fan or somebody who wants to learn, is that they're very interesting. And the way you explain things is very interesting, and especially when I follow from Instagram, these advices and stuff, and then I go to YouTube and I follow a few of you. I'm like, this makes perfect sense. So it's about how you deliver it, and you can see, you can know at the time. I think by now people sense how genuine is the person you're listening to is.
Right.
Is he doing it for money, or is he actually doing it because he likes to do it? So your videos has been, I've never been disappointed, to be honest. So thank you for that.
Ah, thanks.
So we have a question from the audience. It's a funny one, but I mean, let's spice it up a bit. If someone wants to join your program, whether DK Music Academy or having you as a mentor, would they be sure to succeed?
No.
Wow,
So,
that's
here's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
And I, the one thing I always want to be on YouTube is real. I mean, that's the whole point. I don't want, I always used to say this. So as I'd class myself first and foremost as a teacher. That's kind of always been my bag.
Yeah.
And so here's the interesting thing. When I work with any artist at all, anyone, we want the same thing. You want to be successful and have people to listen to your music and people to buy into it. What I want is for you to be successful, for you to get your music out there, for you to succeed, and for you to have all of those things. We're fighting for the same thing, for you to be able to do it. But just because I want that, and just because you want that, that doesn't mean that's going to happen. And so, this is about patience. This is about understanding. It's about learning. It's about trial and error. It's about testing. It's about figuring out your audience. And this is why I created the Academy. Right. The main reason was I have this real love-hate with YouTube. I love YouTube. It's like, it's just amazing. The frustration I have with it is the consumption habit means I'm supposed to make a video that explains everything, which takes a lifetime to learn. I'm supposed to deliver that in 6 minutes.
Wow,
and I'm like,
true.
that's, and I'll get comments on a video, which is like 8 minutes long. And someone will say, the video starts at 45 seconds. And I'm like, oh my God, would you just give it 45 seconds? Or someone says, this should have been done in 2 minutes. And I'm thinking, God, this is so much work, and you're putting it, into a tiny amount. And so I wanted to get away from this top 5 tips on how to grow on Instagram, or top 5 tips to get your music distributed. And I wanted it to be, look, this is detail. If we have to sit there and spend an hour talking about one tiny thing, it's boring. But I promise you it works. And I don't care whether you like it. I don't care whether it entertains you. I care that you get the result that you want. And I think that's why I wanted to do this, because I'm quite happy to say, that's not good enough. Like, this is tough, because no one said that to me. That was the issue. Yeah. When I was 18 years old, I said, I will do whatever it takes. The same as all of your artists, all of your listeners. I'll do whatever it takes. The problem is nobody tells you what that is. Yeah, so you end up going, I'll do whatever it takes. What do I do? And you go, I don't know. I just make it up as I go along. And so when someone says, okay, so firstly, this isn't good enough. This is where the bar is set. Then if artists say, right, okay, fine. In that case, I know where I'm supposed to go. If artists then say, I'm not doing that, I'm not going to reach that bar, that's on them. That's their issue with their work or their talent or their, and unfortunately, I'd love to be able to say it's not about hard work and talent and all of these things, but it is. You've got to be talented. You've got to work hard. You've got to, and when people say, is it about hard work or is it about talent? It's like, all of it. Like it's 1,000,000%. It's both.
Yeah. I most of the time I have this conversation with artists here, whether in UAE or in the region, and sometimes like I send them a video, whether for you or for something educational in the music industry, and they go like, oh, it's 6 minutes, 10 minutes. I'm like, when you go home and watch Netflix for hours, like what did you gain from these movies, But you're arguing that you want to be a successful artist, yet you don't want to watch these very important 5-minute, 10 minutes videos, So not all of them. I don't wanna generalize, but I mean, most of them. That's the issue that we're facing, at least in this region that I'm watching. not just because they don't want to watch the video. It's the laziness that it goes behind
Yeah.
it. So
Do you know what hurts? I think what hurts the most is seeing an artist who has spent so many hours crafting their song from writing and pre-production, arranging, recording, mixing, mastering, and they've poured their life, their soul into all of this song, and it's just their passion and everything, only for them to then just say, "I just put that there." And you're like, you've spent hours, and that isn't the hours that you've spent getting better and better at your instrument or better and better at songwriting. This is just the process of having one song, and then you just go, right, I'll put that there. And you think, why are you not putting 10 times the hours of being proud of this song to say to people, look what I did? And artists don't want to do that. They want to just say it's all about the music. And it's like, well, it is all about the music, but people have to hear it. It's kind of important that people listen to this song. So that hurts. It hurts me when I listen to artists, or I see artists on socials, and I just think, you're so much better than your numbers, or you're so much better than the traction that you're getting. And we've got to get what you deserve. That's the bit.
True. And I believe the grinding behind it is a big deal. Like every industry, as it's a common thing. You need to grind, you need to work hard in terms to get what you want. And especially the music industry is a very competitive industry. So yeah, you need to put the hours, the time, and man, there's so much talent in this region and abroad as well, and in the UK when I was there. So yeah, I think people need to just work harder.
Need to have some fight.
Yeah.
People need some fight. When it comes to even things like being a bass player. If you're starting out as a bass player, it's great. I love that. I want you to be a bass player, but just be aware that when it comes to getting a gig, you're not up against the people from school. You're up against me, and I'm really, really good. So you've got to have some fight. You got to have some fight in the game, because otherwise, it is a tough industry in the way that you have to have thick skin. You get turned down a lot. You put your music out to playlists. They say no, I don't like it. You're trying to get gigs. People say no. You show your music to people. They don't listen to it. You have to develop this thick skin. But if you're patient and if you keep learning and building, you start finding these routes forward, and you start finding the people that will help. And all of a sudden, these 1% every day start to really add up, and other people fall by the wayside, or they don't work as hard. And all of a sudden you start saying, hey, I'm getting luckier. Well, you're not getting luckier. You're getting better, and you're working faster and working harder. And that's where you win. Yeah,
true. And by the way, I'm a bass player myself, so we need to do a competition. Huh? You and I.
I love it.
Yeah, man, bass playing has been a very big part of my life. But unfortunately, after going into the music management, stopped having time to do that. But I mean, hopefully.
There's always time. We'll find some time. We'll do a duet.
Done. I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to jump to another question. In your experience, how much would an independent artist can make from their music? Not like approx things, for example, as an upcoming one, independent, and how many ways to generate income or revenue?
It's a really
I know you have like millions of videos that talk about this.
Yeah, but this is really good.
Yeah.
This is what it's all about. I think people assume that when I'm talking about music, it's about getting it heard and getting plays on streams on Spotify, and everything comes back to, if you can build the audience and if you can get traction and do something well enough, then there should be a return of investment. This idea that Spotify doesn't pay a crazy amount of money for streams, I understand that. And yet the music industry is financially bigger than it's ever been. So therefore, there are ways of return of investment. And as soon as someone hands the reins over to someone else and says, I don't really understand it, that's when someone's going to take the money. But there's plenty of ways to get the return of investment. And, really, the sky is the limit. It's just that, and that doesn't mean it's easy at all, but the sky's the limit. So some ways of this is, let's say you build the audience, and at which point you have full control, because the audience is now yours, whether that is 1,000 people or whether it's 1,000,000 people or whether it's 100 million people. You have control, at which point you get to decide how you want to monetize the audience.
Right.
To which point you say, I've always wanted to go on tour. Great, because the audience knows who you are and they want to come on tour and buy tickets. And tickets now are more expensive than they've ever been, ever, especially after what we've been through. Then you say, well, I don't want to go on tour. I'm not a touring musician. Okay, I want to play the streaming game. Now, artists will say, well, I've got my money on, I've got my music on Spotify and that doesn't bring me money. But if you play the streaming game, that's different to just, I've put my music on Spotify. So all of a sudden, you look at the biggest artists from a streaming capacity on Spotify, they don't have 10 songs. They don't have 15 songs. They have 200 songs, 250 songs. The only artist who has the only billion streamed artist who has under 100 songs is Post Malone, who I think's got about 75. You look at Drake, I think he's got 225 songs. Ed Sheeran, new song out tomorrow, he's got like 160, 180 songs. These artists have a lot of a library because they understand that it's the libraries that bring in the money. It's not just one song.
Right.
And so, streaming, if you look at someone like Scooter Braun, who I think is a genius, the way he works with people like, Bieber is going to different places, and his streaming game isn't just the music, it's the videos. So he's on YouTube, he's pushing out videos day in, day out, because he knows every one of those videos might be bringing him in another 5K, 10K every single day. Well, there's all our travel paid for, not just the music and the syncs and everything else. Then there's syncs, syncs is, there's a lot of sync deals. Music nowadays has to go everywhere. It's not just TV, it's adverts, it's films, it's games, it's apps, social media. Yeah. So you've got the publishing side of things. Then you've got things like merchandise. You've got memberships. There's so many ways, but it all comes down to one thing, which is, do you have the leverage? Everyone's talking now about NFTs. Oh, NFTs is going to be the future. Well, it might be, but it only is going to be the future for you if you have the leverage. So It's all very well saying NFTs, but if nobody wants to buy your stuff, then NFTs is useless for you. But then anything's useless if you don't have people who care and want to buy. And that's why everything comes back to, number one, is the music good enough to bring in an audience, and are the audience engaged that I can build that audience and look after them like they've never been looked after before, so that I can monetize this. And there's plenty of ways.
So the biggest advice we can give is that artists need to release material that's like good material, obviously, and they
need to house an audience. That's the bit. They need to house an audience, because if you can get one fan, like one true fan, you can get two, because if you can get one, you can definitely get two. Which if you can get two, you can get 100. Now, what's to stop you getting 1,000 if you look after fans? And this is the difference between looking after an audience and just putting stuff out. So if you say, hey guys, my new song is out. Hey guys, I've got a gig. Hey guys, I've got a new video. They might like that, but you're not looking after the audience. You're doing it for you, not for them.
Right. I have a technical question. I don't know if you went through this system or this model of marketing or advertising your music or other people's music, but there was a wave probably last year or probably this year as well, where artists used, like, for example, Facebook ads or Instagram ads, and they started generating a lot of following to Spotify, which made them, a very generous income / streaming numbers. Were you one of those people that were on that wave, or
100%? Yeah. But I think that there's the one difference that I would suggest if anyone's going to go down this route is, musicians are always looking for the quickest way to get from A to B. Right. And the quickest way to B is, here's an advert, go and listen to my music. Now, brilliant. Except there's one problem, which is we're interrupting someone who doesn't know who we are, who's probably in the middle of something, and we're just saying, hey, you don't know who I am, but I want you to do something. So the person on the other end, if there's enough value in there, so for example, if they love guitar-based riff rock and there's a huge riff, and they listen to it and they go, oh, that riff sounds amazing, I need that riff, maybe they'll go to Spotify. But we're asking a lot. We're asking people to listen to the 15 seconds and then go to Spotify, listen to the music, like it, follow them on Spotify, come back to Instagram, click the follow button and be a part of this journey, all for 15 seconds. It's just very
Yeah.
unrealistic. Here's the difference.
Yeah.
If we said we're going to bring people into our party, and by that what I mean is we're going to advertise and say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is what's happening, and this is what I'm making. Why not just come in and hit the follow button? People will go, okay. Now at that point, they're in the party. They've come into the party, and we can get hold of them via advertising or organic reach sometimes.
Yeah.
And at which point, now when we say to these people, hey, my new song's out on Spotify, we push them to Spotify, they come back because they're housed here. So instead of saying, go to Spotify and then drop off and never hear from me ever again, we're saying, come in, I'll look after you. I'll give you videos. I'll give you pictures. I'll tell you stories. And then I'll also tell you when there's a YouTube video and you'll come back. And I'll tell you when there's a Spotify video and you'll come back again. And this is where you house people. So the Facebook adverts will work best when you're warming people up and getting them to say, hey, I know you. So if you're like an artist, for example, this happened to me this week or last week, Biffy Clyro released a new song and they made an advert and it just was Biffy Clyro saying, new singles out. Of course, I love Biffy Clyro. So I'm a warm audience member. I was straight away, I was like, great, I'm into Spotify. I'm now listening to the song. Works perfectly. But I get the same advert 10 times a day from people I don't know. And I just go, no, I don't know who you are. I don't care. I've got no loyalty to you. I've got no passion. I don't know. So what we've got to do is we've got to say, hey, all I have to do to start with is just get you to come into my party. And I'm going to look after you. Then we can start pushing people to Spotify with Facebook ads and they'll stay there. They'll come backwards and forwards. They'll put music into their playlist. And that's where the money comes in. And that's where you're building up good data on Spotify so you can get onto playlists rather than someone going across, listening to 10 seconds, dropping off, which is effectively telling Spotify that they didn't like it. If you get someone to go to a 4-minute song and listen to 10 seconds, you're literally saying to Spotify, this isn't very good, is it? Because everyone's going then dropping off and not listening to the full song. And people aren't taking that into consideration, that data in social media and Spotify is everything. It's so important. And so if you can get 1,000 people to listen to your song in full, then Spotify will take that and say, this is good. And it'll start to put it into explore pages or into other playlists. Whereas if people go and drop off and don't listen to it, Spotify says, I'm not showing this because I don't want people to skip it.
Right. So does this model still work now? Like if you want to do this, Facebook.
100%. 100% it works. And here's the difference is it does work. It's always going to get harder. The more people do, the more it gets saturated and noisy. But this is the same thing as people saying, does Instagram still work? Yes, but you just got to be better than you were a year ago. Does YouTube still work? Yes, but you've got to be better than you had to be a year ago. Does Facebook ads still work? Yes, but you have to be better than you had to be 1 year ago. But the good news is you can also look at what everyone else has done and say, well, there's the bar and this is what I've got to do. So because you make music, that doesn't give you the right to demand people listen to it. Just because you made a video, it doesn't mean you can demand people watch it. But if you make something good, then they will spread the word for you. And YouTube or Instagram or Spotify will also do the work for you. So this is a matter of everything works, but the standard's gone up.
Right. Do you have a course on this, like the advertisement?
Several, quite a lot of courses. There's Facebook ads courses. I mean, I did a whole roadmap to 1 million streams, which starts off with the very first question that everyone needs to ask themselves: who are you? Who are you, and why should I care? Because as harsh as that is, once you've got that question answered, you win. Because everything comes back. Am I going to put this post out today? Well, does it answer the question of who I am and why I'm doing this and why should someone care? If yes, it goes out. If no, it goes in the bin.
Wow, that's sick. Nice one. But yeah, because what I'm asking you, because I want to share these courses with some of the artists that have been asking me for a while about these things. And I stumbled upon like few courses by other people. $3,000, $5,000. I'm like,
no.
An independent artist does not have this kind of money at first. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And if they do, it should be going into recording, it should be going into their music.
Yeah, so. 1,000,000%. Right. I'm gonna jump on the streaming platforms. Do you believe it's two questions in one? The first question is the streaming platforms. Do you think it was the way that the independent musician needed to kind of start spreading their music like better than before, in terms of all the music industry is jumping now on the internet for the past 10 years
Yeah.
now? And the second part is, do artists have other ways to generate income other than the streaming platforms?
Yeah, it's good. It's great. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think social media came along at a time where, where the industry owned everything, and
Right.
so a lot of people were and are anti social media. They don't like to do it. It's, I had a chat with an artist earlier on, and he was saying, "I wish I didn't have to do social media." And I was like, I think most of us feel the same. It's not like not many of us there being like social media. Most of us are saying, "Hey, this is it's not designed for music, but it's the best thing we've got to actually have a voice." So, it came along where the industry literally was, it was this kind of yes or no, you can't come into play, and maybe you can come into play until I say so, and then I'm going to throw you away. And even when you do come in, I'm going to take all your money off you in some crazy deal, because that's the way record labels used to work. And so this idea of like looking through the old days through rose tinted glasses, like it was amazing back then, is nonsense. It's awful. It was terrible. Artists got ripped off left, right, and center, and the labels took all the money, which is why they had big skyscrapers and the artists were left with nothing. And so, nowadays there's more control, and
Right.
which is fantastic. The issue is not everybody wants to do social media, always cut out for it. And so there's still so many of the old traditional ways. I'm in Nashville tonight. Will be the third songwriting night that I will go to this week. I have seen 20 artists perform this week. The same way as if I pick up my phone and I start scrolling, I'll probably see 20 artists in the next 5 minutes. Wow. They're everywhere. The difference being is, if you go to a place to get the attention, whether that's advertising, organic, when TikTok came along, everyone was like, TikTok's the new thing. Everyone needs to jump on it for organic reach. Then it was like Clubhouse. Yeah. And then it was Clubhouse. Everyone's like, you got to get on Clubhouse. And I'm like, oh, I mean, what's Clubhouse? It's like Clubhouse is where everyone just talks at each other. And I was like, that sounds horrible. And, and it's like, it doesn't matter.
To Clubhouse. Sorry.
Well, yeah. But like, it doesn't matter. They're all the same. It doesn't matter. It's like TikTok is just short content, YouTube, long content, Instagram, pictures and videos, Medium, written, tweeting. Like, you get to choose which is the right thing for you personally. And when people say, oh, it doesn't work anymore, it's like, no, it does. It absolutely does. It's just that we're all obsessed with the next thing, which is the easiest way of doing it because there's less people on it. Yeah. But, if you just go to a gig, you pick up your guitar and you go to a gig. In fact, get this, I believe this 100%. If you are that good, that good, you can pick up your guitar, you can walk to a publishing house, you can just get on a plane or a train, go to Nashville, knock on the door, someone will open it and say, you need to hear my song. Wow. It'll take you 3 minutes. You need to hear my song. If that song is good enough, I mean, it has to be that good. Right. If that song is good enough, you'll get a publishing deal. And that publishing deal might mean you get money. That publishing deal might mean your song is synced onto the next Samsung advert or the next TV program. And all of a sudden that can start. The problem is, and this is the big problem, and this is what people don't realize, is to be that good, to have that song, to have that, Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith or whatever the song is that people just go, oh, that song. It's hard. I can't do that. I can chip away at it. I can chip and chip and chip until I get there, but I can't just throw one swing and just go, oh, what do you know? I'm Ed Sheeran. Like, that's really difficult.
True. So if somebody, an independent artist or an upcoming artist, wants to join DK Music Business Academy, how they go about that?
So we've got a website, and like I said, the purpose of it is I wanted to utilize my time to have access to me and to be able to talk to artists. So in it, there's a lot of different courses depending on what you're trying to achieve, whether you're trying to get radio or Facebook ads or build the brand. Yeah. And there's a community of which I'm in most of the day, chatting and talking to artists. And I do 2 live sessions like this where we talk about questions. And it's as simple as going to the website, DK-MBA, and you get a 7-day free trial where you can see if it's for you. And if you like it, you can stay on. If not, you can cancel it, and then it's just a monthly subscription. So it means that rather than, like you said, a big one-off payment of $1,000, it means you can pay $30 and have a month where you can talk to me about your music and about what you're doing. And not just me, you know, there's so many creators from around the world that I'm inspired by on a daily basis that are in the community. And so, you know, I'm not egotistical enough to believe I have all of the answers. I feel like I am lucky enough to, you know, talk to so many musicians that I'm getting different viewpoints, and I'm using that to talk about the music industry. So I'm seeing it from, I feel like I'm someone who's very luckily got one foot in the music industry and one foot into I remember being 18 and sitting at music college and saying, what do I do? You know, so I've got this one foot in, one foot out, and I can I'm quite lucky in the way that I can go and approach a bigger artist or a label or, you know, an A&R person or a manager and say, how does this, you know, the amount of times I'll phone up a music industry lawyer or a manager and be like, how does this work? Tell me about this. What happened there? And, you know, I'm obsessed with this knowledge. And so, you know, that's the bit. You can just jump in and, you know, watch some courses, get involved, come and chat with me on the live sessions, ask some questions, get involved with other people who are in the same boat or potentially a little bit ahead, or help artists who are a little bit, you know, who haven't quite done as much as you have. And I love the community. I just love the vibe. It reminds me of that first and second year of owning a music college, when it's just exciting and you can talk to people about their music and their journey and strategizing. Have you tried this? Have you tried this? This is a good idea. You need to go and talk to so-and-so because he's doing this really well. And it's cool.
Awesome. Damian, what kind of advice would you give somebody that wants to pursue music career? And, you know, actually whether they want to be a music manager or an artist in general, because you kind of do both. So
yeah, I think the best advice I can be is the 1% rule, which is an amazing book. I think it's Atomic Habits, a great book. And it's very true. This 1% rule, you know, we live in a time where we now swipe up and have anything we want. And so, and it's frustrating when we don't get what we want very quickly.
Right.
And, you know, for me, I started playing bass when I was 15, and, you know, I didn't just pick up a bass and just go, oh, I can now play. You know, it took me hours and hours. And you know, the amount of times my parents would be like, please stop play, like just turn it down or turn it off or give it a rest or go to bed. And it was, you know, it took hours and hours a day, every day for years and years and years. And that's what music industry is about. The music industry is not one swing. The way I explain it is, you know, I'm in no way a fighter. I would never be very good in a boxing match, but I like watching it. And so when you train a boxer, you are training that boxer. You're not saying to them, hey, you got one punch, get in, throw the punch. If you don't land that punch, we've got problems. But that's the way artists think of their career. So what we've got to think of it as like a boxer. A boxer says, hey, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm training for 12 rounds of throwing 300 punches. And I don't know if any of them will land, but I'm training for 12 rounds. And if I want to be the champion, I'm training for 12 rounds of 3 minutes for 15 matches. And that's a career, you know, that's to get to the title. And it's the same thing in music. If you think I'm going to put one song out and then that's it, I'm going to be Ed Sheeran, everything's fantastic, it's going to be disappointing. So every single time we're putting a piece of content out, every time we're putting a song out, every time we're releasing, we're learning, we're testing, we're being patient, we're figuring out. You've got another round, you've got another punch to see what's working. And you never know which punch is going to land. You never know. It might be round 6, might be round 12, it might be round 1. It might be fight number 3, round number 6. Yeah. All of a sudden, you'll make something and just think to yourself, I did something clever then. I don't know what it is, but something really worked. But the standard is going up 1% at a time, all of the time. And that is the way I would approach a music career. You're not thinking about my next single. You're thinking about the next 12 months. Very, very different. Right. And in 12 months, I want to release 10 singles. I want to try this. I want to try that music video. I want to try doing this. I want to see if this works. But it's a marathon and it's not a sprint.
Awesome. Damian, as much as I'm loving this interview and this episode, really, I want to ask a lot of questions, but you're probably going to see my face during one of your courses, you know, so.
I hope so.
Either me or my artist, basically. But yeah, definitely this has been a very informative talk. personally, and for a lot of people that are messaging. I wanted to pick up a few questions, but we're already running out of time. Actually, we're already out of time. So I want to thank you really for giving me the honor to have you on this episode. And like we discussed, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you here in Dubai. Definitely, I'm like Dubai Media City. Hopefully, will throw the on the XP festival that they did before the pandemic, and it was very much successful. Hopefully, this is gonna come back to life, and we'll have you and other people from the industry. You guys are all giants. You're a legend. So thank you so much, and hopefully we'll meet in Nashville soon.
I really appreciate you, dude. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to come to Dubai and you can show me around.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. Just make sure you're ready for the heat, huh?
Yeah, I will.
Awesome. Thank you, Damien. Ladies
Take
and
care.
gentlemen, thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, this was episode 5 of Behind the Music with Elia. I'm your host, Elia Msawir. This has been fantastic. 5 months, I cannot believe that. The next episode is going to be next month, as usual. I'm having a lot of people kept asking me since I started the episode 1. Let's talk about copyright and publishing and sync deals, etc., etc. So I'm having somebody, one of the biggest companies around the world, gonna come and we're gonna discuss this, and you're gonna ask all your questions to him, questions that I've never had answers to. But thank you for tuning in every episode, every month. This is Behind the Music on Dubai Media City. Thanks to Dubai Media City on the XP Festival. See you guys next